Excellent. I see Ms. Montgomery has joined us.
Oh, great.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
All right. Our live stream has started, so you are welcome to start the meeting now.
Okay, thank you so much. It's June 10th, 2020, and the Sexual Misconduct Committee meeting will come to order with the following members present: Mr. Jackalone.
Here.
Mr. Ganadakis.
Here.
Ms. Montgomery.
Yes.
Thank you. May I please have a motion for approval of the May 13th, 2020 Sexual Misconduct Committee minutes, please?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Montgomery. Mr. Jackalone, thanks. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. So we're going to start out, please, with a historical case review summary. And Stuart, I think you're going to help us with that?
Yes, absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
That's fine, thanks.
All right, great. So all the numbers that I'll be giving today were updated as of yesterday afternoon, so it's pretty current. We have completed 67% of the historical case reviews, with just under 400 remaining to be assigned out of the original 1,256 total cases. The weekly average completed reviews has slowed down just a bit since last board meeting, since our last update. The 4-week average is now at 43 reviews completed per week. And this is largely due to the reviews now containing some formal action cases that have gotten much more complex and lengthy in terms of the file volumes. So this was certainly something that was expected, but just wanted to keep you apprised of that. Even with that happening, we are still on track to complete about 3 to 4% of the total reviews per week, as we have been doing for the last, I would say, 2 to 2.5 months. And we're still on pace to conclude the initial review stage by the end of September. To date, we have been invoiced for just over $100,000 for contract reviews. And we've actually had 65 reviews completed by the AAGs that have been helping us, which has saved us an approximately 179 hours, or $9,000. So that's a nice thing to have there. In addition to that, we have board staff have been tracking time specifically towards this project, and board staff have spent approximately 2,700 hours on the historical case review of this whole Strauss project itself, with over 1,400 of those hours being after the recommendations have come back in from the contract reviewers. So that's a good segue into, I think, what James will be talking about more in terms of what we do once those reviews come back in. I can certainly try to answer any other questions about any of the numbers I just gave, or yield the floor to the next person.
Stuart, if I may, is the 2,700 hours, is that just on historical case review, or is that on the tasks from the work group altogether?
That's just on the historical case review.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
How many hours was that? 27 or 4,700?
2,770 to be exact.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions for Stuart today? Okay. Well, I thank you very kindly, Stuart, really for all your hard work, as we proceed along this way. And then, James, if you'd be so kind, you have a presentation for us today?
Yes, Dr. Schottenstein, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
It's fine, thanks.
All right, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come before the committee today. My main purpose here today is to tell you a little bit about what is going on internally at the board after the outside review has occurred. So I want to just kind of talk a little bit about kind of our approach to that. And then Sean McCafferty, who's kind of heading up the investigative portion of that process. He's going to go through the sort of the process steps in a little bit more detail, but I want to just give you a brief overview of sort of our approach to this entire project. And I think the overarching goal of all this is to get it right. We as board staff feel like we owe that to members of the state of Ohio to get this right. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be easy or expedient. In fact, we're finding it's just the opposite. So what do I mean by that? We, as a part of this just review of cases after the outside reviewer is done, we've spent hundreds of hours already. I anticipate that just on average, we will exceed 80 hours a week of work in relation to reviewing the work done by the outside reviewers and trying to determine next steps with regards to this process. And what's going on with these cases is that every case where there wasn't formal action already taken, there's at least an investigation into that particular matter. So we are taking this very seriously. And why is that investigation important? So certainly part of this process is to review the case, what transpired in that particular case. But the shortcoming in that is that's just a snapshot in time. To do our due diligence, we really also need to examine what has transpired since then, especially as we keep a keen eye out for predatory behavior. So that's why this is important, to do at least some investigation on every single matter that's coming before us. And like I said, Sean will tell you a little bit about what that investigative process entails, but that's what we're trying to do. And our general approach with these is we're coming from the perspective, our starting point is what more can be done. So maybe it's interviewing one more witness, maybe it's making a few more contacts to a victim who was previously uncooperative in the past. Don't get me wrong, we're not going to necessarily go down roads that we think are futile. Certainly, when you're talking about complaints that are 5, 10, 20 years old, there are certainly many instances where the evidence hasn't gotten stronger in that time period of time. But our approach is we're starting from the perspective of what more can we do, what additional investigative steps can be done, what additional evaluation can be done by enforcement attorneys to make sure that we feel like we get every single complaint that comes before us, that do consider. And if all else fails, we're certainly erring on the side of additional review, so pushing it forward for additional review as opposed to opposite direction. And then finally, what's most important, well, I don't know what most important, but certainly significantly important, documentation. I mean, everything that we are doing, every decision that we make, it's accounting for what the outside reviewer has recommended. It's accounting for what the quality assurance person has done. It's giving our personal evaluation of the case in a detailed way. It's documenting what conversations are occurring with Stephanie and Secretary and Supervising Member about these decisions. And I am very pleased to report that we're making pretty good headway. So the team consists of essentially 3 people from enforcement and 4 people from investigations. As the process has gone on, we've actually just recently added investigators to this particular process, just given the fact that we are asked to do quite a bit of work, and we wanted to do this in a efficient way, but also a detailed way. And so we just needed more staff to that. So we are now up to 7 investigative staff assigned to this particular project. Over 200 cases have been reviewed by us within this internal sexual historical case review process. And at every part of the process, there is checks and balances. So it's not just one person at the board ever making the decision. You have the outside reviewer that you have to account for. You have the quality assurance person who you have to account for. Investigations is weighing in. Enforcement is weighing in. And then towards the back end, you have the Secretary and Supervising Member, and obviously Stephanie as well, just to make sure that every stage, I mean, it's not just triple checking or quadruple checking, it's making sure what we're doing makes sense in light of what we were asked. So at this point in time, I want to turn it over to Sean to give you a little more detail as far as what exactly the process is in terms of that investigation and the review.
Good morning. But our processes obviously have been ironed out. This has never been done before. We've come a long way, I think, in a short period of time. As James has said, we did add additional investigators to the process. And as James has stated, everything is thoroughly documented and thoroughly vetted. We're starting to see a lot of different things that are coming our way. Essentially what happens is we're operating off the master list, and I will go down the master list and pick cases that have been reviewed and the quality assurance has been done. At that point in time, I batch them together and assign them out to investigators. The investigators then review the complaints. Then we get back together with Patrick Haggerty, who's in enforcement that's part of the team, and we discuss the complaints and what route we can take, what anybody sees, a synopsis of what's transpired, what the reviewer recommends, what the quality assurance person recommended, and from there we chart a course of action. And that determines the investigator to do further investigation. That's all thoroughly documented. We're utilizing Salesforce and documenting everything in the report of investigation, and also documenting everything on a master spreadsheet. The investigator will then look further into the complaint. And some of the things we're finding as we're moving through this process, I mean, we're utilizing OLEG, we're utilizing social media searches. And social media searches have been interesting. We have opened new complaints based upon comments on social media sources where alleged sexual misconduct has occurred. With OLEG, we have found a few doctors that have failed to report arrests for OVIs and things of that nature. So not only are we focusing on the sexual misconduct, as a byproduct, other things are coming out of the process. Once we review all the complaints, then obviously Patrick's taking them to the secretary and supervising member, or they're taking them to close. We discuss the cases on a weekly basis. The workflow varies depending on the types of cases. Some of them take a lot longer, some of them are a lot shorter. So complaints are consistently signed out to investigators, and we may schedule as many as 2 conference calls a week to discuss the results of the investigations and the path to move forward. We are contacting law enforcement agencies. We're contacting witnesses. We have set up a program to send certified letters to former complainants or former potential victims to reopen the cases and discuss them. We've worked extensively with Michelle Richards to design a program so we're not re-victimizing anybody, and we do it in an appropriate fashion with guidance and a clear end in sight, and just to avoid that re-victimization. And that's been about it. As James just said, we've gone through over 200 complaints, have been reassigned, reevaluated. A lot are currently in the process of being reinvestigated. I don't know if anybody has any questions about the day today.
Ms. Montgomery.
David, thank you for your hard work. First of all, how is the triaging going? How are you? Do you have enforcement attorneys with you, working with you?
Yes, we have one enforcement attorney working with us that's assigned to the project. Is Patrick?
How are the investigators and your enforcement folks getting on?
Just fine. We've been working with Patrick now. I think it's going on 10, maybe 11 weeks. Everything's gone good. Communication has been a big key to this project, and collaboration. So the investigators all talk with Patrick on a weekly basis, which would be the enforcement component. I talk with Patrick, and we reach out to each other frequently, and the collaboration has been excellent.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, with
Sure.
regard, with regard to your approach to the folks who have made the complaint maybe 20 years ago, the victims, and I don't mean that despairingly. The victim, as we refer to her, usually. Why do we do that by letter as opposed to picking up the phone or actually, doing it in person? Although I understand COVID gets here.
Well, I should clarify. So let's say we review a case and a victim was never contacted. And let's say this case is 20 years old. We will absolutely reach out to that victim face to face. Part of the letter was, let's say it was 15 years ago, the victim had been interviewed, she had been talked to, or he had been talked to, and then all of a sudden, we're going to call out of the blue. So in discussing this with victims advocates, it was thought that maybe a letter would be better because it would allow the person time to process. It wouldn't be as shocking. And then they would almost have a little warning that they were going to be reached back out to, or they would then contact us. There has been a lot of thought given to opening old wounds and re-victimization. And that was the process that people had weighed in on. And we felt that was the best route forward.
So your letter, does your letter say, generally we're reviewing cases and we note that XYZ, and we are interested in, how do you approach, how does the letter approach the victim?
The letter approaches, it discusses that, we're looking into old matters, and, if the victim is willing, we would love to discuss the case, or love to have a conversation regarding old matter. It's a gentle letter. Obviously, we can get a copy sent to you for your review if you'd like.
Well, I'm sure you and your victim advocate folks have been appropriate. I I wanted to make certain that we weren't. I was worried about the approach.
We're trying to approach it in a manner that is best and is least disturbing to any victim. And I mean, we also are facing the fact that if they were talked to 15 years ago, nothing occurred, and now all of a sudden we're coming back to them. We're treating that with kid gloves, and we're just trying to take the softest approach that we can without disturbing anybody as least as possible.
And Ms. Montgomery, to your point as well, if I may just add one other point, through all of our trainings, what we've heard is it's extremely important to be respectful to the complainants and the victims in these particular matters. And one way that we can express that respect is to give them power in the process. And so what we're trying to do is essentially make it clear that they control what happens next. I apologize for the lighting.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks, David. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much. And so if I may, what kind of response are you getting from the witnesses? In other words, are they glad to hear from you? Are they put off in some way? What's their general response when you check in with them?
We're finding it's difficult to get a response. In a lot of instances, I mean, these are old. We're researching addresses through OLEG. I mean, in some cases, over 20 years has elapsed in between. So we're really working hard at getting responses. We've sent out it's been in the past couple weeks that we've gotten to the point where we started sending out the letters. So at this point in time, I can't really characterize the responses that we're receiving because we have not received many responses at this point in time. We do expect over the course of the next couple of weeks, as the process catches up with itself, all the letters have been out. The letter was recently developed, the consulting with the victims advocate. So we're at the stage now where we're just entering into this contact phase with what would have been the potential complainants, victims. So I would assume next month's meeting, we would be able to characterize the victim's response a lot better at that point in time.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
When there is this review among the different parties, right, which is to say, investigators and enforcement and secretary supervising member and Stephanie and such, are you finding typically that you're achieving unanimity in terms of the approach, or is there a difference of opinion that you all have to work through?
I think that there aren't a lot of differences of opinion. The only things that we're finding are due to statutes, rules, the time period. So things that I guess it's the knowledge base. Maybe on the reviewers, they may think that there are certain things that could have been done or we should have done at the time that we couldn't do. So everything's evaluated as a group, and in the end, it's unanimous, and there aren't many heated conversations. And with Patrick and enforcement and all the investigators, we are usually able to reach a pretty clear consensus, and everything's well thought out, well documented. And the process is we work through the process. I mean, if it takes 2 hours of being on a conference call to discuss 10 cases or 12 cases to come to a unanimous decision, that's what we do. And it's generally just been a very collaborative, and we communicate constantly. So yes, we come to unanimous decisions almost 100% of the time.
Thank you so much. Further discussion? Mr. Jacqueline?
Hey, Sean. Hey, Sean, quick question. I know there's a prioritization process when you first get the material. It seems like you're almost boiling the ocean here. You seem to be getting more stuff in as you do your research and whatever else. Is there a prioritization process too, and which ones you guys chase down first versus later?
Yeah, when they created the master list, and as part of the process in the order of assignment, they did prioritize cases as, doctors that had the highest number of complaints, the most contact with the board, things of that nature. So those are the ones that we've started with. And, a lot of us have been here for a long time, so we're very well aware of the potential or the most important complaints that should be there, the doctors that are probably the most egregious offenders. So we have picked those out, but we've started with the process from top to bottom. So if doctors have single complaints, they're not prioritized that high. We're starting with the ones that everybody's very well aware of. I'm just not going to name names of doctors, but high value in the media, or a lot of attention's been paid, a lot of complaints, a lot of interactions with the board. We started with that batch of complaints, and we wanted to go after potentially the most egregious complaints first, and that was our first order of assignment. So we feel in this first 200 that I've assigned out that, and I'm not saying that we got all of them, but we feel that we have started the most egregious ones right from the get-go.
Okay. All right. I'm just wondering, the general work research standpoint, is like you're getting all these cases, even within the bad ones. Is there a prioritization? You know what I mean? I don't know. Do you have as much resources as you need to chase down these? Because I heard 200 cases you guys reviewed. That's a load. Not to mention the ongoing issues you have on routine investigations. I just want to make sure you guys are targeting. I'm sure you are, but I mean, it's not. I guess my question is, it's not set in stone. I mean, you didn't start it with this group. If you find things kind of evolved, and all of a sudden, player number 1 is really maybe player number 200 now, you guys are kind of reshuffling the deck as to who you go after, right?
Absolutely. We're constantly reshuffling the deck and reviewing prioritization of complaints. Everything is constantly evaluated. There are a couple of us, I can say I've read through almost every case on the list at least more than once. And the priorities as we're going during the course of investigation, let's say during the initial review, we think, oh, this is one of the ones that we absolutely, this is priority number 1. When we start reviewing it, and if we determine it's not priority number 1, but priority number 50, and during the initial review, the investigator's like, wait a second, there's a lot here. We really need to look at this. We'll refocus. So it's constantly under evaluation, and it's fluid. So we're not set in stone that, okay, we're only working these, as other things come to our attention. And it's been interesting because some of the social media searches that we've done have revealed some very interesting comments and complaints regarding doctors and sexual misconduct in a couple of instances. So all of a sudden, we'll reprioritize that and get somebody started on that, and they'll really work on that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Ms. Montgomery, yes.
Just briefly, okay, Sean, is it David or Sean? Because when I talk to you, it says David, but when I've talked to you before, and as Rob has talked to you, it's Sean. So which do you prefer?
I prefer Sean. My name was David Sean, and when I started at the medical board, I always go by my middle name. The lady that made the cards at the time said, your name's David, it's not Sean, and she wouldn't do it. So after 8 years of going by David, I just left it David.
Well, Sean, good, I agree. As you are working through I want to underscore, do you feel that you are being listened to, that you have enough equipment or enough staffing? I mean, how are you feeling about, over the years, there have been issues, and our concern, I think, is to make sure that we have a vibrant, when the cops and the prosecutors, if you will, in a like situation, work together, but have different points of view, but they trust each other, so much gets done. And I guess the question is, do you feel you're getting there? Is this process helping you get there in terms of not only this kind of investigation, but generally speaking?
Absolutely. Nobody's ever going to say they couldn't use more staff or more equipment, and obviously we're in difficult times right now. I mean, there's all kinds of things going on. I do want to commend the investigators. I mean, Danielle Thompson and Jason Almeida have done a wonderful job. They've done everything that's been asked of them. They're in constant contact with Patrick Hegarty and enforcement. They're communicating well. Chad Yoakum, Chris Forshey, another supervisor, and Jason Schwaber, another investigator, have recently come on board to review these complaints, and everybody has done so willingly. And I know Danielle and Jason, their entire weeks are committed to these complaints. This is pretty much all they're doing, except they're still maintaining a few complaints from their regular caseload at this point in time. We could always use more people, but I can tell you, we're doing our due diligence. Everybody is sticking with the spirit and the intent of why this program, why we're undertaking this review. Everybody's got that in mind, and everybody's working well together and willingly, and really doing a good job. I mean, I commend the investigators that are working on this project. They're doing a great job.
Thanks, Sean. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you so much. On that note, one of the tasks from the working group action plan was to address relations in the culture among investigators and enforcement. And, this is sort of an opportunity for everyone to work together more. I'm sort of hearing that. And I'm sort of hearing that things have maybe moved in the right direction that way. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say. I mean, we've primarily been, working with Patrick Hegarty, who's obviously a new enforcement coordinator, and things have gone well. We have a lot of cases that are going to be referred back to enforcement, and as difficult as it is to reinvestigate complaints, it's also going to be difficult for enforcement when the complaints do go back there. And I think that's when we'll really start working with enforcement on a regular basis when some of these complaints do move forward. But so far, we have great calls. We aren't having any issues, and we really are moving this project forward.
Thank you so much. Further discussion? Well, I thank you very kindly, Sean and James, for your presentation. It was really helpful for us, and certainly wish you well going forward, of course. Stephanie, are we going to talk about FSMB audit today?
Sure. I'd like to just highlight where we are with the FSMB audit. The team that we met with has conducted multiple weeks of interviews, and we had various staff members interviewed, a couple enforcement attorneys, as well as a couple of investigators. We had a few board members interviewed as well by the FSMB team, and I had 2 interviews with them. I had the wrap-up interview with the team Friday afternoon of last week, and I can share with you that the questions that they were asking me at the wrap-up indicate that they really are understanding our processes, that they're doing a lot of work process mapping our complaint process, and exactly what we've asked them to do. They're really honing in on some of the questions that we've talked about with our complaint processes and protocols. And so I feel good about the questions that they are asking, that it is indicative that we will receive some valuable input from them. So they, as a team, I believe, are doing some debriefing following those interviews, and then we'll start writing the report. The last we heard, they are on track to provide that to us by the end of this fiscal year. So we'll receive that report this month. I would expect us to share that out with you and then have discussion on that report at the next board meeting, or at the next sexual misconduct committee meeting. And of course, I think we'll have much broader board discussion with some of the recommendations as it comes to process. So I think that we will have some good stuff to chew on, and some good starting points for us to continue making our processes more efficient and really focusing on outcome.
Thank you so much. Is there further discussion? Okay. Well, yeah. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here today. Any other sexual misconduct committee business today? Okay. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Ganadakis and Ms. Montgomery, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Nice seeing everybody today. And I'll see you soon, huh?
Take care.